Mark Taylor-Canfield in Seattle. You have a report about the minimum wage, sir.
Yes, I do. There's the first ever national $15 an hour minimum wage conference happening in Seattle tomorrow. But first, Tom, I wanted to thank you for being such an independent voice on the air. And thanks for all the great guests lately, because your program's inspired a lot of dialogue and debate online. And I hear you're going to be in Seattle soon, so it'll be good to hear you talk about your book and some of these issues. Do you have any details for us on that?
Yeah, May 1st. I'll be at Town Hall at 7:30 p.m., and I look forward to meeting you there.
Great. Well, I just wrote about the $15 an hour national conference in my blog at Daily Kos. There's some really impressive speakers that are going to be at that event tomorrow, and people can go to 15now.org for details. But they've got Glen Ford, who is a founding member of the Washington chapter of the National Association of Black Journalists, also from Black Agenda Report. They've also got David K. Johnston speaking, who's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and author of Free Lunch, and David Goldstein, who's our local political commentator and blogger. But it's going to be a major event, and it's very important to our area because there's multi-billion-dollar corporate projects going on in Seattle right now, and the latest homeless count was in King County, Martin Luther King Jr. County. There's 3,123 people who have no shelter, many of whom, according to the homeless activists I talked to, are the working poor. They actually have jobs.
Amazing.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann program. Visit TomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
It is so wrong. Mark Taylor-Canfield, you can read his blog over at dailykos.com. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Tom. Keep up the good work.
You too. Good talking. We'll be right back. Tammy, watching Free Speech TV in Spirit Lake, Iowa. Hey, Tammy, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. Thanks again for taking...
10 minutes before the hour. Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And let's check in with Victoria Jones with the Talk Radio News Service, talkradionews.com, brought to you by goatsfortheoldgoat.com. Hey, Victoria.
Hey, Tom.
Happy Friday.
And to you, too.
Thank you. So what's up?
Well, a lot of things are up today. Ukraine, situation in Ukraine is not great. Number of things going on. There are allegations that pro-Russian separatists have seized a bus carrying international military observers and that negotiations are going on for their release. According to Ukraine's Interior Ministry, Russia has accused the West of wanting to seize Ukraine. President Obama had a conference call with European leaders, and the U.S. is ready to impose more sanctions. S&P downgraded Russia to one notch above junk today. Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov described Ukrainian military raids on buildings occupied by separatists as a bloody crime. And Ukrainian Prime Minister Yatsenyuk accused Russia of wanting to start war. No, you've got to have communication, as Winston Churchill did say, jaw is better than war.
Yeah. This could be a very, very bad situation.
What
else is going on in the world?
The NRA is having its annual Gun Fest, its annual convention, starting today.
Do they let people into the main hall with guns?
I think you can go anywhere. I mean, I don't know that, but I think that's part of the deal, you know.
Well, I think that was one of the great ironies, was that one of the recent NRA events that Wayne LaPierre was speaking at, that people had to go through metal detectors. You couldn't come in with a gun. They were afraid somebody might shoot him.
Oh. Awkward.
Yeah.
The NRA's chief lobbyist Chris Cox today called former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg an arrogant hypocrite and told him to stay out of our homes, stay out of our gun cabinet. Also commented on Bloomberg's new project, where Bloomberg's forming a new group called Every Town for Gun Safety that is going to encourage gun control advocates to punish elected officials who don't support stricter gun laws. And Cox got very fulminated, if you like, about that. Then Senator Mitch McConnell spoke and said that he would work to expand the rights of gun owners if he was given the opportunity to lead a new Senate majority, and gave them a speech full of red meat. But interestingly, apparently, according to the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, his reception was a bit chilly. Some audience members yelled at McConnell to go back to Kentucky.
Kentucky?
That's where he's from.
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
He's not that popular.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. So Mitch McConnell is getting heckled at his own events? Is that basically what you just said?
Yes, that's what I just said.
Amazing.
Yes.
Okay. What else is going on?
Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton appears to be baffled about Edward Snowden's motive for fleeing the country to expose U.S. surveillance programs. Video has emerged of remarks she made Wednesday night at the University of Connecticut, saying, I don't understand why he couldn't have been part of the debate here at home, and saying when he emerged and when he absconded with all that material, I was puzzled because we have all these protections for whistleblowers. Except, of course, the whistleblower laws in the United States don't cover contractors. And she apparently isn't aware of that.
That's a pretty glaring ignorance.
A pretty glaring omission, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And she said some other things that might not be too popular with some on the left if she chooses to run with regard to surveillance. Also, Senate Democrats are concerned that children and teenagers could still gain access to candy-flavored electronic cigarettes under new rules from the FDA. A number of senators put out a statement today saying basically as long as e-cigarette companies continue to take pages from Big Tobacco's old and cynical marketing playbook, our children will remain vulnerable to the grave dangers of nicotine addiction. In the FDA's new rules announced yesterday that would prohibit e-cigarette manufacturers from selling or marketing to people under 18, the rules did not ban flavors like pina colada, grape soda, and cherry crush.
Right. Yeah. And it just makes sense if you're going to market a product as a way as a safer alternative to smoking, which apparently e-cigarettes are, or as even a gateway out of smoking, that you would not want it to be flavored in a way that would entice people to start with it. If that makes sense. Right. Yeah.
Right. House Republicans don't seem to be on the same page when it comes to immigration reform. Representative Mario Diaz-Balart saying to Roll Call newspaper this week that he thinks that things are basically teed up for movement on reform because of various things that have happened over the last several weeks. Of course, he's a key player in any kind of reform that could happen in the House. And yet Eric Cantor, the House Majority Leader, has put out a memo today for the agenda for May in the House, and it includes a whole slew of things, but immigration is notable by its absence.
And didn't Boehner just yesterday or the day before make a speech in which he criticized the Republicans for not being able to get anything done on immigration?
Yes, he did. He mocked House Republicans for not getting anything done on immigration.
Yeah, remarkable. Victoria Jones with the Talk Radio News Service, talkradionews.com. Victoria, you're brilliant. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Good to talk to you.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
Hey friends, Thom Hartmann here. Thanks so much for watching and listening to the program. The Thom Hartmann program is brought to you in part by the following underwriters. Identity Guard. Count on us to help protect what makes you, you. WIX.com. Thom Hartmann here on the best of the rest of science and green news. You need to know this. This past Sunday was the 4th anniversary of the BP oil disaster in the Gulf of Mexico. Despite what you've heard from BP, the wildlife, the environment, and the residents of the Gulf are still dealing with the effects of that massive oil spill. A new report from the National Wildlife Federation found that many animal species are still struggling to recover from the 2010 disaster, including bottlenose dolphins, bluefin tuna, sea turtles, and many others. Residents who live near the spill and those who worked in cleanup efforts say they're still dealing with skin boils, respiratory illnesses, and depression. Many coastal environments that were once home to birds and wildlife are now just stretches of barren land and dead mangroves. And just a couple weeks ago, Florida Department of Environmental Protection officials discovered more than 350 tar balls on the beaches of Escambia County. The oil is not gone. The environment is not restored. Residents' lives are not yet back to so-called normal. Yet BP continues to claim that they fixed the Gulf, and reports that show otherwise are just political advocacy, not science. Fact is, there was no way to completely clean up the 210 million gallons of oil that spilled in the Gulf, and there's no way to bring back the millions of plants and animals that died as a result of that spill. Should have learned our lesson from earlier oil disasters like the Exxon Valdez in Alaska. But instead, even after these massive events, we just keep drilling for toxic sludge. 4 years after the BP spill, we're still repeating the same mistakes. We can only hope there won't be a bigger, more deadly disaster before we finally end our addiction to fossil fuels. According to the latest IPCC report, we can afford to make the switch to renewable energy now. The latest predictions from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change conclude that rising temperatures pose a grave threat to life as we know it, including the potential for war and the disruption of our entire food supply. However, the economic analysis in that report shows that we can make the necessary changes to prevent that future from becoming reality. According to the analysis, if we divert the money we're spending on fossil fuels to renewable energy and conservation, we would only lose about 0.5% in economic growth. And that report doesn't even factor in the huge benefits that come along with making the switch to green energy. Not only would we save our planet and our health by switching to renewables, but we would create green jobs and stop spending money on cleaning up oil-related disasters. The facts are clear. Global climate change is here, it's happening, and we can do something about it. The world has the tools, but we need the willpower to stand up to big oil and make the switch to green energy. According to radcast.org, there's been another dangerous mistake at Japan's Fukushima nuclear power plant. Last week, TEPCO announced that 200 tons of highly radioactive water flooded basements at that plant after the wrong pumps were left on because of human error. The tainted water that filled the basements was used to cool nuclear fuel rods, and it leaked before going through a radiation-reducing purification process. That means that the water was highly radioactive, and it's just the latest example of how dangerous the ongoing situation is at Fukushima. Only days before, TEPCO announced that an August leak of 300 tons of water was way more radioactive than initially thought. That August leak made its way into the Pacific Ocean. However, the latest incident is said to have been contained. These leaks clearly show that TEPCO isn't qualified to handle the massive Fukushima disaster, and it's time for the international community to step in. For the safety of our planet, the world must come together to deal with this disaster. Check out radcast.org for the latest updates on Fukushima and all your other nuclear news. Coastal restoration provides more jobs than offshore oil drilling. According to a new report from Oxfam America and the Center for American Progress, 17 jobs are created for every $1 million invested in restoring coastal ecosystems. In comparison, only about 9 jobs are created for every $1 million spent on oil and gas development. And benefits don't stop there. For every $1 spent on coastal restoration, we get back $15 in net economic benefit. Caring for our coastal environment actually pays off for our economy with improved fish stocks, increased recreational opportunities, health benefits, and protection from storm surge. Mark Schaefer of NOAA said, "The economic benefits are remarkable. There's a direct connection between what we're doing to enhance the environment and what we're doing to enhance economic activity." The oil lobby likes to claim that we can't afford to protect our environment, but it turns out we can't afford not to. And finally, coffee lovers have a new reason to reach for a cup of Joe. In addition to recent studies that found coffee consumption reduces the risk of type 2 diabetes, Parkinson's, and stroke, new research suggests that drinking coffee lowers the risk of developing liver cancer. A new study was conducted at USC Norris Comprehensive Cancer Center in Los Angeles, and it followed thousands of men and women over the course of 18 years. Researchers found that people who consumed 1 to 3 cups of coffee each week had a 29% lower chance of developing hepatocellular carcinoma, the most common form of liver cancer. People who drank 4 cups or more had a 42%.
I had totally forgot that, and I lived through that era. In fact, I quoted Alan Greenspan in my book Screwed, and I didn't put that 2 to 2 together. Greenspan back in the 90s said to the Wall Street Journal that one of his most important jobs as chairman of the Fed, particularly in the 80s, was to maintain, whenever the economy started getting good, to raise interest rates and cool down the economy to maintain what he called, quote, a certain minimum necessary level of worker insecurity. In other words, a certain, you have to actually keep unemployment at a slightly higher level, not a slightly lower level, so that workers are less likely to go on strike. And so you don't have what Greenspan referred to as wage inflation. Now, he had no problem with CEO wage inflation, but average working people wage inflation. So you're right. They were using wage inflation as they were blaming that as the boogeyman that was causing inflation, when actually it was merely reflecting it. And they were using that inflation scare to break all these union contracts and wring concessions out of unionized workers and reduce wages of non-unionized workers. You're absolutely deflation, which is what we had from 1929 to 1934. When you have deflation, the value of the currency goes up, the price of goods goes down, but nobody has any money, and because nobody has any money, there's no demand for goods and services, and that's why the price falls. Wayne, I'm seeing, I've raised this issue with Dr. Bhattrai, that investment advisors that I follow are saying, if you have money, if you've got a retirement fund or whatever, put it in British pounds, put it in German marks, put it in U.S. dollars, put it into treasuries. These are all places where if the U.S. dollar, if there's a crash, if the stock market goes down, these are all going to go up, and they're all kind of counter-cyclical. So, apropos of that. Wayne, thanks a lot for the call. Yeah, it's a good question. They're actually, some of the Middle Eastern Emirates have suggested that. They've suggested currencies based on oil. I think one of the main reasons is because it's, so fungible. It's so easily transportable from place to place. The world market in oil is very much a world market, not so much like with oil. And B, we keep discovering more and more of it, and we keep discovering ways to need less and less of it, none of which can be said of precious metals. So probably that's why. Although, like I said, in the 70s, when there was a shortage of oil, we saw the dollar, the value of the dollar go down. We saw inflation because there was so much more demand for oil. So arguably the dollar is denominated in oil, and if we see an oil shock, expect a big problem, and that could come out of a mess in the Ukraine, for example.
As Give Big Day nears, we ask you to reflect on the role KBCS plays in your life. Make the connection between the quality of what you hear and your role in making that happen. Pencil in Tuesday, May 6th as the day to make a gift of support to KBCS in partnership with the Seattle Foundation. Learn more at kbcs.fm.
This is Democracy Now! The headlines. I'm Amy Goodman. Ukraine is warning it'll continue efforts to retake control of eastern areas from pro-Russian groups despite warnings from Russia. Tensions have escalated after Ukrainian authorities said they killed 5 pro-Russian separatists near Slavyansk. Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced new military exercises on the border and warned of unspecified consequences. On Thursday, Secretary of State John Kerry warned the United States could take further action against Russia if it does not back down.
7 days, 2 opposite responses, and one truth that cannot be ignored. The world will remain united for Ukraine. So I will say it again. The window to change course is closing. President Putin and Russia face a choice. If Russia chooses the path of de-escalation, the international community, all of us, will welcome it. If Russia does not, the world will make sure that the costs for Russia will only grow. And as President Obama reiterated earlier today, we are ready to act.
A U.S. journalist has been released by pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. Vice News correspondent Simon Ostrovsky has been held since Monday. He says he believes he was targeted for his reporting.
They had my photograph at a checkpoint that's just down the road from here. And so the guy at the checkpoint saw my picture, saw my face, and then they pulled me out of the car and all hell broke loose. There was 4 other journalists with us in the car, and I think they were released pretty early on. And me they took to the SBU headquarters, where the pro-Russian forces have their headquarters right now.
President Obama has left Japan without sealing a deal on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, a secretive pact among Pacific Rim countries to establish a free trade zone encompassing nearly 40% of the global economy. The deal has faced mass protest in Japan by farmers and others who say it'll cause large-scale poverty and displacement like what happened in Mexico under NAFTA. Obama said a deal could still be reached if Japan further opens its economy to U.S. products. Obama continues his Asia tour in South Korea today. Israel suspended U.S.-backed peace talks with the Palestinians following a unity pact between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas. Israeli officials say they'll only resume negotiations if the PA abandons the deal with Hamas, which Israel deems a terrorist organization. Native Americans and ranchers are continuing their week-long protests against the Keystone XL oil pipeline in Washington, D.C. On Thursday, the Cowboy and Indian Alliance rolled out a fake pipeline in front of the Lincoln Memorial and called for leaders to reject the project.
Our message to the Canadian government is, let's do what's right for North America. Let's not, capitulate to multinational corporations and their greed.
We do not want to pollute our water and destroy our land. We want to see our We need President Obama to reject the Keystone XL pipeline.
Thousands of protesters are expected to join a march on D.C. on Saturday. The Obama administration's delayed a decision on the pipeline for the 3rd straight year. Vermont is poised to become the first state in the country to require labeling of genetically modified foods. Governor Peter Shumlin has vowed to sign the bill passed by state lawmakers Wednesday. The measure also bars foods with GMOs from being labeled as natural. The measure would take effect in July of 2016. Connecticut and Maine have passed similar laws, but theirs have clauses that prevent them from going into effect until neighboring states require the labeling. U.S. postal workers rallied outside Staples stores across the country Thursday to protest the shifting of their jobs to non-union retail workers. At issue is the opening of postal counters inside Staples stores, which are staffed by employees paid far less than union postal workers. An Arkansas judge has struck down the state's strict voter ID law, saying it violates the Arkansas Constitution. The law requires voters to present a photo ID before casting a ballot. It was enacted last year after the Republican-led legislature overrode a veto by Democratic Governor Mike Beebe. The issue of sexual assault on college campuses is in the spotlight. Brown University is under fire for allowing a student who raped and strangled a classmate to return to campus after what amounted to a 1-semester suspension. The victim, Lena Splove, said her assailant was found responsible for sexual misconduct by a university panel, but will still be allowed back in the fall. Surrounded by supporters, Splove described the injuries she sustained in the attack.
It turned out I had cervical spine injury in my neck from being strangled. It's very common for trauma injuries like this to take several months to surface. I could not walk for about 2 months from January and February. I was bedridden and was forced to take a medical leave. So I lost my 1 semester of freedom, and now my next opportunity to come back as a student to matriculate here at Brown is the same semester that the rapist is allowed to come back and matriculate here at Brown. I feel like I should have been thanked by the administration for keeping this campus safe. Instead, they kept him safe.
Brown is not the only Ivy League school facing scrutiny for its handling of sexual assault. Students at Columbia and Harvard University have filed complaints accusing their schools of violating federal law by failing to adequately protect survivors and punish perpetrators. Last month, a Harvard student published an open letter titled "Dear Harvard, You Win," detailing her unsuccessful battle to have her accused assailant moved out of her residential house. And those are some of the headlines.
7 p.m. at Parlor Room. I'll be doing a meet and greet, then a talk at 7:30 p.m. on my new book, The Crash of 2016. The United States is in the midst of an economic depression that could make the Great Depression look like child's play. Find out what we need to do right away. You can find more information at ThomHartmann.com or at WHMP.com. Welcome back, Thom Hartmann here with you. It's funny. I was reading Andy Borowitz's blog, and his most recent story is about. Hang on a second, I'm trying to get back into our screen. So, most recent blog was about how the Republicans are, Rand Paul's issuing a statement that, how dare Mr. Bundy not use accepted code words to talk about race. He's over the top. Or, Republicans are upset. People who don't like math, with the new Obamacare numbers, things like this. And you read his blog, and it's like, it could be Fox News. I mean, it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. Anyhow, Mark in Elmwood Park, Illinois. Hey, Mark, what's on your mind? You want to talk about ecological configuration?
Oh, me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, Tom. Actually, this is about astrology. This is Anything Goes Friday, so I'll take you up.
Sure. Yeah.
But apparently, a lot of astrologers are saying there's something in the sky called the Grand Cardinal Cross, where Jupiter, Uranus, Mars, Pluto all form a cross. And this is a 180-year cycle. And apparently, we're at the very beginning of the 45.
Thank you. I can tell you from past experience, where I've gotten feedback, both positive and negative, from members of Congress or from particular websites, that if I really hammer on something, and I don't think this is just unique to me, I'm guessing probably any show with the kind of audience we have can do the same thing, that we can brown out websites and we can bring down phone lines. I'm not trying to do either, but I do think that it's a good idea for people to go to freepress.net.
Happen more often.
Yeah, go to freepress.net and sign the petition and call the FCC. You can call Chairman Wheeler's office at 202-418-1000. And my simple message, and you can make whatever message you want. I give my audience, all of you, incredible credit for your own intelligence. But the way that I said it, and which might not be the most elegant, but I said, declare that that internet service providers are common carriers, that the internet is part of the commons, and that out of that comes everything else. Out of that comes net neutrality and everything else. So simply declare ISPs, internet service providers, as common carriers. That was my argument. Vicki, thanks a lot for the call, and thanks for calling the FCC. Thanks for being an activist. Good on you.